Let's go. So this is the manual. The exam structure. The exam is a 2.5 hours exam. It's an open book exam, meaning you can use the Prince2 Agile guide only, which of course sometimes you can find it to download from the website, but it is advisable you buy the e-copy from Axelos. I can provide you the link. Also, there will be an objective testing exam. It will be 50 questions, and each question will carry 1 mark. The pass mark here is 60%. That means you must score 30 out of 60. Okay, you must have 30 marks out of 50 questions. So that is 60%. I will also give you some past questions. We will look at it together in the course of this study. Okay, what is the okay? All right, so we'll look at the projects and BAU. We'll look at the overview of Agile, blending Prince2 and Agile together, some assumptions. We'll also look at what is called hexagon, which will include Moscow prioritization. We'll break down what Moscow is. Moscow is must have. MO stands for must have. SC stands for should have. S stands for should have. CO stands for could have. W stands for wouldn't have. MO must have. M is for must have. Okay, O does not have anything. They only add it together so that it's easier to pronounce. M is for must have. S is for should have. C is for could have. W is for would not have for now. So this is one of the ways by which projects futures, the futures of projects, the way it is being prioritized. For example, if you want to do a project, let us take a building project. Now, in a building project, let's take someone, for example, somebody wants to build a bungalow. So part of the things that a project manager would ask is, what are the must have features in the house? What are the features the house must have? That means those features are not negotiable. Maybe 3 rooms, 3 bedrooms, a sitting room portion, a dining room portion, a separate kitchen, um, 3 toilet and bath or 4 toilet and bath. Those are what must have. Then should have. That means those things that they are not a must, but it is like um, it is expected that it should be there. It's not a must, but it should be there. It means that if there are 10 things that are under should have, if you are able to provide 7 or 8, the customer may be happy. The only one that you have to provide 100% is the must have. Even the should have, as a project manager, you need to agree. What percentage of this should have do you want to, can you do without? I mean, or you want 100% of that again. What is the variation that you can accept? Then could have futures that would be nice to have. So it means if it is there, it's okay. If it's not there, the organization will still, the project will still be considered successful. Then W is would not have for now. That means those futures are not futures that you need to provide a cost for. You can provide the make a provision for it so that in the next project it could be added. That is why we call it wouldn't have for now, not would not have forever, but they are nice to have, but probably the person cannot afford it now. For example, putting a jacuzzi in the bathroom. Jacuzzi may not be affordable as at now, but the person who is having the house still want to have jacuzzi. So jacuzzi could be wouldn't have for now. Because it is wouldn't have for now, this bathroom can be large enough so that when it will be required in another project, you don't need to eventually condemn the existing bathroom and create a separate bathroom for it. I do hope you understand the Moscow prioritization. Any question? M is must have. So anytime you hear Moscow, Moscow here is not Russia. It is about how to prioritize, how to prioritize projects, project futures. What are the things that must have, must be part of the project? What are the must have? What are the should have? What are the could have? And what are the wouldn't have for now? It's complete sentence. You have to be able to say it wouldn't have for now. Then we look at in terms of approach to project management from the Prince2 point of view. You have different stages. The first stage is always called starting up a project. And then you have another stage called initiating a project. And when you are initiating a project, you have to include business case. Business case is a document that provides justification for why that project should be implemented. Project will need to provide basic information about what is the project cost, what is the benefit, what is the organization stand to lose if the project is not done. That is going to be part of the business case. Documents used to justify and to get approval to really, continue with the project or to begin the project itself. Then we also talk about the value assessment. How do you assess value? We'll look at significant approach. We'll also look at requirements and user stories. All right. So when we talk about projects or BAU, what is BAU? Business as usual. Please take note of the difference. Business as usual. That is what they call BAU. What is a project and what is a business as usual? As far as Prince2 is concerned, Prince2 and Prince2 Agile are only suitable for projects. They are not suitable for business as usual. Because they are not suitable for business as usual, it therefore means that Prince2 and Prince2 Agile are for projects only. So we need to know what is the meaning of a project. We'll talk about that later in detail. Agile can be used on projects. You can also use Agile itself for ongoing business as usual work. For example, every organization over time, they improve what they do and they classify that as well as project as usual. So, but take note, Prince2 Agile is not the same as Agile in the sense that Agile exists as a new way of work, which can be used for projects. It can also be used for for business as usual work. It can be used for project work, business as usual work. But when we talk about Prince2 Agile, we are talking about using the Prince2 methodology in the context of a project, using it to manage a project. Okay? Now, what is the difference between projects and business as usual? The characteristics of a project. Every project is considered a temporary assignment. And so a project team is also like a temporary team. Projects is temporary. Temporary because every project must have starts and end dates. That's why it is temporary. Every project must have the start date and end dates. Now, when you talk about business as usual, that one is not temporal, it's ongoing. Projects is always temporal. It will always have a start and end date. Then the next one, in a project, there will always be a temporary team created for the purpose of a particular project implementation. Team will be created. After the project is completed, those team will continue, go back to where they were working before, the other, their business as usual activity. So project does not have a stable team. Business as usual will have a stable team. Then project can be difficult. Go ahead, please. Yes, you can consider it as operations, but again, when you in IT, we have more than just IT operations. In IT, we have developers, software developers. We have people who are in operations. We have people who are in cyber security. That's why we just call it business as usual. Then, but to a layman, that's what may be acceptable. Okay, then project can be difficult. Of course, project can be difficult to achieve. The expected result may be difficult to achieve because it is also time bound. It is time bound. That's why it is temporary. And so it has a degree of uncertainty. It has a risk that it may fail, it may be successful. A lot of uncertainty. Business as usual is a routine. That means what people do every time. Like somebody is doing accounting job. Somebody is in accounting department. In accounting department, what do? They keep records of all the spendings. They look at, you know, approval for spending against budget. They look at how budget is being depleted. They probably go look for extra budget where it is required. That's a routine work. The same way they carry their work. End of the month, they do a report. Next month, again, they do another month-end report or weekend report. It's a routine work. That is what we call business as usual. Business as usual has a degree of certainty, but project has some degree of uncertainty. Okay, difference between project work and business as usual. Another way we can look at the difference between project work and business as usual. In a project work, like we said, it's a temporary work. It means it has a start time and the end date. Okay, it has a start and the end date. Just sorry, I want to size this thing within the window. Okay. All right. So it has a start and the end date. In Prince 2, there are some work you do before a project starts. That is called a pre-project phase. After a pre-project phase, then there will be a stage called initiation stage. After initiation stage, after you initiate the project, then there could be other multiple stages. And then the project must close. So a project is a temporary work because it has a start and end time. All through this period, there will be a project direction and then management of the projects. When the project ends, the project goes into production. Sometimes the project can be delivering in quarter on a quarterly basis. That means every quarter they deliver something new. And every time they deliver something new, it goes into production as an increment. Once it goes into production, the business as usual are the ones that take over. They start using it. So product is developed, incremented over the time. So if you have existing products, you do another project to improve it, it will be added. There are batches of futures or backlog to do prioritization, which these batches of futures or backlog are the things that will be added as improvements. And these improvements can also be considered as business as usual. It doesn't have to be a new project set up entirely. Okay. All right. Looking at Agile, what are the overview of Agile? The word or the term Agile, you can view it in many ways. Agile is usually being referred to as a way of work. It's a well-known framework. It's a way of work. It's also referred to as a behavior, a concept, and techniques. There are well-known behaviors that when a project is called Agile project, the way you behave in an Agile project, the concept and the techniques you use are not always the same with a traditional approach to project management, which is called waterfall or simply traditional approach. So remember what we started where we started, Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto comes closest to a single definition. So the easiest way to define Agile is to probably use the Agile Manifesto. Agile was created as an alternative to a traditional approach, which used to be called waterfall. So waterfall process is the old process whereby all projects are being implemented. As the name suggests, waterfall. Waterfall is a step-by-step approach that does not really accept changes. Step-by-step approach that is that will require a lot of documentation, that will require that all requirements are being gathered. All the requirements are gathered at once. The requirements are agreed, and then the developments will start. For example, in a waterfall approach, somebody wants to build a house. He call you as a project manager to manage the project, the building of the house for you. All the requirements, what type of a house, is it a bungalow, what type of roof, what type of window, how many bedroom, what type of, you know, bathroom equipment will be there. All those things are agreed ahead of time. And so once the person mobilize you with whatever percentage is agreed to start the project starts. In a waterfall approach, the owner of the property cannot make any changes that has not been agreed earlier on. But in Agile, if you do a building construction in Agile, then you will break down the building project into different milestone or what you call iterations. For example, you can start with the carcass. What is carcass? Laying of blocks. After block is laid, then you come and agree again. What do we need to do? Now the blocks has been laid. There is no roof yet. Then you agree on roof. After the roofing is done, you can also take roofing as another iteration. You pause, you discuss again. What are the next stage? You start the next stage. You pause after the next stage, maybe plastering the house in and out. After that, what is the next stage? Interior. Like that. That is agile way of work. Waterfall is you agree everything in advance. And the challenge with that is usually the fact that it becomes difficult to make changes. Even where the changes is possible, it also comes at a very huge cost. Agile also address the new demand placed on the delivery. And that's why we said with Agile, you can easily change because you don't need to agree all of the futures at the beginning and stick to it permanently. There's room for, you know, taking, changing the direction. For example, after doing the building in terms of the carcass, then maybe the roof initially was supposed to be this latest roof, but the fund is not available. And then the owner of the property can change course and say, okay, I can't afford that, which we thought we are going to do in the second phase. Let's change. That is very easy to do with Agile. With Waterfall, it's a bit difficult. Again, look at the manifesto which we have looked at. The manifesto says we are uncovering better ways of developing software because Agile came from software development, doing it and helping others to do it. Through this work, we have come to value. So Agile came from the experience of developers who has valued individuals and interaction over processes and tools, relating with people, interacting with people over following a process which is rigid, a defined step-by-step approach. They also have discovered that it is better to have something that is working than to have comprehensive documentation. For example, you can have a documentation that is so voluminous and the software that's supposed to be produced will never be able to work because it cannot be created to agree with all the documentation. Rather than having just comprehensive documentation, produce a working software. For example, we know a company called Nokia, right? Nokia used to be the number one mobile phone manufacturer, but they lost over the years to the likes of Apple iPhone and Samsung smartphone and other type of smartphone from China. Why? Because the likes of China mobile phones or smartphone manufacturer were producing different type of smartphone. Remember when the smartphone started, the touch screen, you cannot touch the screen with all your fingers. But gradually they were building on it. When the smartphone started, you don't have camera at the back and at the front together. But over time they build on it. And they did that because they were able to also collaborate. So collaboration is important. Collaborate with the users, with the customers over negotiation. Collaborate is asking them, do you think you need all these features? Can we start with just this one? And then you start using this rather than all the things you require must be done at once. Let's start with the most important one, and then over time we are building up, building on top of it. Responding to change is also being considered over following a plan. That is why there is value in process and tools, no doubt about that. There's value in having documentation because that's like an agreement. There's value in negotiating a contract which will be based on the documentation, what has been documented as the futures expected. There is nothing bad in following a plan. But what's work over the years, what has made software development successful, and not just software, but many other projects successful, is those ones on this side. You place more value on them than the ones on the right hand side. Okay, when you compare waterfall to um, Agile. Another word for agile is an iterative and incremental. Iterative means you are doing it in phases, or you batch it, or you decide to break down a project of 3 months. You break it down to what can be achieved in the first month, and then get a feedback to be able to add more features if required to go to the next stage. So in waterfall is a linear approach. Serial means it is one step after the other, one step after the other. And until you complete the whole step, there is no way you can produce something useful, operational. You must complete everything. That's a waterfall. You must complete all the steps. It's linear. You must follow it. On the other part, the agile is about iterative, doing it in phases and adding up more features as you do it. So with this agile, which is iterative, in the first month, for example, you will produce something that can be used operational. By after the first month, you start adding more features, and then you still produce something that is also useful. So if you look at waterfall, it takes a longer time to derive value from the investments in a project compared to when a project is done through agile. Another example you can look at is somebody who is trying to build a house. You want to build a two-story building, and the person plans to build it in 2 years. If you want to do it by waterfall approach, the person cannot live in that house until when the building is complete. That is on the until the end of the 2 years. Do we understand? In agile approach, the person can live there after 3 or 6 months. Why? Because in agile approach, you will do the ground floor in a way that it can be inhabited, and then you do the first floor, it can be inhabited, and then the last floor. So that is agile. I suppose we understand that explanation and the example I gave. Okay? All right. So agile basics. What are the basics of agile? In agile, you are to consider three key things. One, you need to time box what you want to do. Time box means you need to have a start time and end time. You need to agree what you can do within a particular time. In the case of a software, we expect that every 2 to 4 weeks, there should be a future available, a new feature, a new addition, or a working software produced. That's a time box. Also, Agile uses collection of different techniques to achieve its work. And as far as Agile is concerned, there are many approach or many framework. There is the common one is called Scrum. Scrum is one of the common Agile framework. In Agile, you need to have a kind of a document which contains the product, they call it product backlog. Product backlog is like a document that contains all the things that has been agreed, all the futures. Now, these futures, remember, because it's agile, you can always add more to it. But at least that is what is agreed initially. Let us take, for example, building a website. Building a website, or e-commerce websites. When you want to manage the project in agile way, you start by getting the requirement for the website. How many pages? Is it a static website? Is it dynamic? Dynamic means that will there be a kind of interaction? Will the information on the website be changing? How frequently? Is it every month? Is it every day? You know, we get all those requirements. Do you want people to be able to buy stuff on the website? Are you going to be able to provide? Will you want to provide opportunity to be able to pick up, delivery approach as pick up, or you are going to deliver to their house? Are you going to be able to calculate how much the delivery will be? What are the criteria? All those things, the futures, the things that will be there, they are part of the product backlog. Now, this product backlog, they are expressed many a times in form of user stories. What is a user stories? A user stories is what a user wants. For example, as a user of the website, I want to be able to pay with my credit card. That's a user story. That will be recorded as part of the backlog. Another user story can be, as a user, I want to be able to ship, pay for shipping of the goods I buy on the website to my address. That is another user story. And that user story will be, I want to, as a user, I want to have an account with the company so that I can always see the record of the things I have bought. I can also get promotional emails on the new promotions they are doing. That's another user story. So we approach agile backlog, product backlog, the futures of the product based on what the user aspirations are. That's what they call the user stories. And then this backlog, okay, will now be broken down into what can be achieved within a time box. It will be prioritized. For example, what is the first priority? Is the first priority to be able to search for items I want to buy from the website? So Epic is broken down into user stories. Epic is like, I want to build a two-bedroom flat. Okay, what are the things you want to have inside, the futures? Those are the user stories. So all the things you want to have are put together like in a document, like and referred to as a product backlog. Now you need to start from somewhere. Where do you start from? Laying foundation. Is that not so? In the case of foundation, like in case of a building. So laying foundation, in the case of a website, you need to start with, designing the interface, the home page, getting write-ups, what should be in the home page, about us, and other things. So when you pick what you can achieve, and in terms of the sprints backlog is picking what you can achieve within a time box, within a set of fixed time. For software, we'll always look at it in 2 weeks or maximum 4 weeks. Okay, what you can achieve. So you put what you want to achieve. For example, I want to create, in the case of a website, the home page as well as the home page, and the home page will have information about the organization, the founder's name, information about the address, contact us. Everything can be on the home page. That is like a sprint. So now it's a sprint. So you create a backlog here. A backlog here means you break down into activities. What are the activities you will do to achieve, for example, the foundation? What do you need for the foundation? So foundation is like a sprint, something that can be done in 2 weeks. Okay. Now, what are the things that will be done? How do you want to spend the 2 weeks? First week, we will do this. Or first 2 days, we will do this. First day, we would get people to begin to dig. They will dig for 2 days. Third day to fourth day, we would get cement. These dates will get this. So that is the product, the sprint backlog activities you want to do. And you begin to carry out the activity. As far as Agile is concerned, one of the advice is to always meet every day for at least 15 minutes. They call it daily stand up meeting. 15 minutes, 1 5. Sometimes it can be up to 30 minutes, but ideally it should be 15 minutes. Sometimes it can even be 5 minutes. And what do you discuss? What you discuss is what was planned to be done a day before, what was done a day before, what is to be done that particular day, and if there is any reason why a particular task that was meant for yesterday was not done, was not started, was not completed. So you do that meeting every day. That help you to remain focused. That help you to know if there's anything that will make the project not to be delivered within the agreed time. So when you do the activity step by step, one by one, after the agreed time, you complete it. So foundation is a product, for example, in the case of a building. You've done the foundation. That's something. Remember that in some part of the world, if you buy a land and you don't develop it at all, develop means you don't even have a foundation. The land can be easily taken away from you. But if you have done foundation, it's something. Or you do the fence of the land. Fencing can also be the first thing you will do. That is a shippable product. Another example in the case of a software can be the home page of the website is there. You can add other pages later. The pages that relate to e-commerce will be another sprint. But first, let the website be out there so people know about the company. They know the products. They may not be able to place order immediately, but they know how to contact you. So, but once you have the website, you put the address there, the phone number, the email, they can contact you. And then, so having a website that may not even be taking data, or that is probably having only a particular page that is to allow people to send contact information to you. Instead of sending you email, they can just put information on the website. Or you can have the website integrated with what? With what is called chats. You can have a live chat, somebody chatting with those who come to the website to take their order right from the website. So that can be together achieved if it's possible in 2 weeks. If it's not possible in 2 weeks, you will take the integration of the live chat into another sprint so that you can do it well. So the first one can be provide the website. This is the website address. People can go there. They can get your phone number. They can get your physical address. They can get your email. They can also provide their own. They can ask you question via the website. Just send a message, put their name, their phone number, and then you will receive it as email, and you can follow up with them. That can be a shippable product. Or do you think in your own interpretation, is that website useful or is not useful? Hello? Do you consider such websites useful or not? Exactly. Exactly. They can know about. Okay, thank you. They can know about your products, they can know about your location, they can call you on phone, they can WhatsApp you and all that. Okay? All right. So the basic backlog and sprint structure is commonly used. So in Agile generally, this backlog is being used. And sprint structure is also being used. What is a sprint? A sprint is taking one of the user stories in the backlog and dividing it into activities which will be achieved in 2 to 4 weeks. And I've given you example. Building a bungalow and all the features that should be there is a backlog. A sprint will be starting with fencing the compound, the land itself. That can be one sprint. That is, a user story is okay, I want to be able to enter into my land through a gate. I don't want anyone, just anybody, to have access to the land. So the first thing that we done is to do a fence and put gate there. That's the sprint. And that sprint will be after I have done the gates, then I want to do foundation. That is another sprint. After foundation, I want to put blocks to lintel or put block to roof side. That's another sprint. Okay? By the next 10 minutes, we'll go on a short break. All right, so beyond the basic view that we have seen, as far as Agile is concerned, there are more comprehensive view, which can include visions for undergoing a project. Okay, exactly. Yes, it is the same thing. So, but minimum viable product is usually the first one you do. Do you understand? The very first one is it's a shippable product because shippable means you can't deliver it. Minimum viable product means that product is the first one and it has basic features. For example, you build a house, I mean, you have a land and you do gates, you do fencing, and you do the gates. That you can deliver as a product is something. It is the minimum you can do on a property. Do you agree? It also depends on the size of the land, you know. If the land is acres, hectares, doing the fence round may be very expensive. It may be better to start building from one end, doing foundation of two plots out of, you know, 10 acres than to do the fence around the 10 acres. It all depends. But the first one you do is the minimum viable product, the one you start with. Okay. And it's also a shipable product as well. All right. Can we continue? Okay, so beyond the basic view, you have more comprehensive view about Agile, such as the vision, the roadmap, and releases. Every project should have a vision, a roadmap. A roadmap is, for example, you want to build a two-story building. What are the what is the roadmap? How do you want to achieve it? And then releases. Releases is how do you make available to user, or how do you make available the project in phases? That is, how do you release it in phases? Then we'll talk about the fact that beyond IT, you can apply Agile. And I've given you example in building. So I will always give you IT example and non-IT example. Okay? And of course, as I earlier mentioned, Agile itself can be used as projects or business as usual. Agile is a way of work. It can be a way of work when the work is a project. A project means a temporary task. a task that has a start and end date. It could also be a way of work for business as usual, which is a business as usual is what you do constantly, something that is normal operation. Okay. Also, agile can have what is called a flow-based working, where output of one work will be used as an input to another work. And of course, you can have a wider mindset as well for how to use agile project methodology. Okay, like I mentioned, there are many frameworks of agile. There are many subsets, many ways to use agile that people have come up with. What are the different types? Scrum is a common one. Kanban also use agile. Lean, lean startup, XP, safe. So the common ones that people normally use is this Scrum and this safe. Okay, SAFE. So what we are learning can help you to function irrespective of the framework that is being used. Do you understand? We are not learning a framework specific, but we are going to learn what the agile is all about within the context of a project. Some are more common than the others, as I earlier mentioned. The most common ones are these ones in green. Some organizations also use this SAFE and XP as well. SAFE, let me give you the meaning. SAFE now, let me see. SAFE projects. Okay, this is called scale something. Okay, yeah, scale agile framework. Yeah, that's what they call it. Scale agile framework. Scale agile framework. That's what they call SAVE. Is also, yeah, a bit common as well. Okay, it's also a bit common as well. All right, some of them are only applicable to IT. Some of these agile framework only work in information technology. And there are some that work within IT and also outside of IT. So like I said, the training is not specific to a particular framework. So it means that the training is useful when you want to manage a project within IT and non-IT. Okay, what are the agile behavior concepts and techniques? Remember we said that as far as agile is concerned, first thing when you are defining agile is to use the manifesto. It helps you to conceive what the idea is. Secondly, is to understand what are the behaviors. How do you know that a particular project is using agile or using waterfall? How you will know will be based on the behavior. What kind of behavior? The behavior that is agile is a collaborative behavior where you collaborate, where you don't assume that you are the subject matter experts, and so you don't need to ask for input from others. You don't need to get the ideas of other people. Also, another behavior will be self-organizing, customer focus. You are focused on what will provide the customer outcome they expect. Another way to call this behavior, you can call it the principles, the values, the mindsets with which agile is being done. Agile expect people not to work in silos. For example, if you look at building construction, there is mechanical parts aspect of building, there is electrical aspect of building. So the electrical people need to work with the people in mechanical. They need to work with people in civil engineering. They need to collaborate, work with the architects, Architect also cannot just be the only one to say, this is what I design. It must always be. In Agile, architect must take input, discuss with people who are vast in mechanical engineering part, in the structural engineering, in the electrical engineering. Concepts. What are the concepts of Agile? The concept of Agile is about prioritizing what is delivered. You cannot deliver all the futures at once. So you have to be able to prioritize. And these concepts are fundamentals in IT, in Agile. And what are those concepts? Those concepts deals with the fact that when you prioritize, so you do the work based on priority. Remember, we'll talk about product backlog. The sprints, what you start with, the user story you pick should be based on which one has the highest priority. For example, if you are building a website, which one is of highest priority? Is it having the website's homepage created, the location as in address, how to get you, contact page, home page, contact page, about us, products. Maybe in some organization they will put information about the staff, the management staff. If you look at a page that should have information about management staff and a page that should contain product, which one do you think should be prioritized? Which one should exactly? So that is the concept of Agile. It's not about I want my face to be on the website. As long as your face is not a product, if your face is a product, then it is good. But if it's not a product, it can't be prioritized. It is not that it will not be done. It's just that it will not be the first, may not be the second thing to be done. So another concept is working iteratively and incrementally. That is starting with a product page, about us page, contact us page, and then gradually you can put a page about our staff, our executive. You can put a page, about other things. And the concept of time is important, time focused. Also, Kaizen. Kaizen means improve. You improve gradually. And also limiting work in progress. WIP means work in progress. Work in progress. WIP. What does it mean to limit work in progress? Make sure you do what you can do within short time. Don't do it, deliver it before you move to something else. Don't have a plan of, okay, until after 1 year I can't complete, until after 3 months nothing can be done. Nothing is even if all the resources are available, for example financial resources. If you have to limit work in progress by employing more people, please do it. That's part of the way to, one of the concepts of Agile. Techniques that are used, there are techniques used in Agile. There's what they call a Bunn chart. What is a Bunn chart? A Bunn chart is a chart that will be showing you what you plan to do and how many of it you have done within a certain period of time. So if you plan to do something in, if you have 10 activities you want to do or 10 user stories you want to do in a month, after 1 week, if you have done only two, that means you have 80% left. So the chart will show you how many work is yet to be done and the time you have left. User stories and other techniques. People should break down all the big ideas into smaller things that can be done iteratively. Retrospective. What is retrospective? Retrospective is about the techniques where you have to always think about the things that work well in the previous phase, the things that did not work well in the previous phase. In the previous phase, you look back. What worked well? What did not work well? That is retrospective. You have to always consider it before you start a new project. At the end of a particular one, you must say, what did we do well in this phase? What did we not do well? What could we have improved? For example, in the case of building, and you started with maybe doing the fencing, you have to consider, after you have completed the fencing, you have put the gate there. Yes, you did it within the time you specify, but you have to still think about what went well. Oh, we were able to get supply of cement early. We got the supply late. We have to go and use additional fund to get from another provider so as to meet up. So you know what worked, which supplier delivered on time, which one did not deliver on time. You think about what worked well, what did not work well in the just concluded phase. And then another technique is time boxing. You must know how to manage time, how to allocate time for the work you want to do, the piece of work. And then measuring flow. You must be able to measure how work flow from one to another. How does work flow from one person to another person? How do you do the handover from maybe the people who are doing the plumbing work and the people who are doing the building aspects, the builders and the plumbers? How do they, you know, hand over work to each other? How does work flow in that regard? That is part of the techniques. Another word for techniques is practices or the tools that are used. So you can call them techniques or you call them practices or tools. Okay, so we'll take a break.